What's up, Pokemon fans? It's your boy Dashing Kevs, aka That Foul Player, here to take on the mountain of a task and make a power ranking video, rating each team in the league. Just a disclaimer, rankings are, in my opinion, obviously. Just because a team is rated lower than another doesn't mean it can't have a favorable matchup. Some criterias I've used are speed tiers, hazard control, reliable recovery, pivot moves, defensive cores, wall breakers, or the ability of the team to sweep. If your team is lower than expected, please don't get mad at me. Just draft better next time. Nah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, try to make some trades to improve them. I believe with 18 players and the release of Crown Tundra, there are a lot of viable mons in the pool. Now let's get started. For number 18, we have Gengar Army with Coach Anthony. This is no surprise. The team is the worst team in the league. It's basically a gym leaders team with 4 fast mons that are wall breakers that all hit on the special side and share the same weaknesses. There's also redundant typing with Hunter and Gengar. I guess the reason he wanted that was he wanted like a Gengar with Levitate. Altaria is one of the bulky mons that can be both defensive and Spidef. Dragalge, a good Spidef wall, but also prefers attacking on the special side. So there's multiple mons that can take an EQ, knock off, or sucker punch. Actually, sucker punch just destroys this team. Will be interesting to see if this team can get upset wins, and hopefully it gets some trades to have it improved in the future. Next up, we got 17. That will be Isolated Infernapes and Coach Blake. The team has some good bulk, can definitely take some hits from mons, has some reliable recovery, 2 mons with terrain control, dual shell smashers, always nice to have, access to hazard, rapid spinners, grounded poison types, G-Max Lapras, one of the best in the format. The problem with this team is it's slow as fuck. And the bulky mons also share similar weaknesses. A setup mon can sweep this team without much resistance. For number 16, we have Luke and Friends with Coach Lucas. I put this team over the last cause it has a few things going for itself. Flinch Rachi, always annoying. Grimmsnarl with Prankster, Shenanigans, and Screens. Anti-Sweeper Ditto can also be used to scout sets. Shell Smash Blastoise, especially if it's maxed, can be trouble. Access to Volterm, hazards on Shuckle, a Defogger on Rotom. Has a bit better speed tiers with Persian. Possible setup DD Shelgon, contrary Lurantis. So there are threats on the team, but they are few and can be easily dealt with in team building. On to number 15, we have Nuke the Whalers with Coach Chris. The team has some bulky mons in Quag, Licky, Mandibuzz, and Cradily. Pivot in Volturn, Prankster Clef with hazards and defog, decent wall breakers in Zapdos, access to screens, gimmicks in Ace Q Belly Drum. The team is generally fat, but also vulnerable to setup. It doesn't have the best ways of dealing with stall itself. Aaron can also act as a counter sweeper with Boots, Sturdy, Endeavor, or Roar. Hopefully we do see that set, because that would be hype. And on to the next one. For number 14, we have the New York Cramoranch and Coach Zach. The team has great speed tiers with Coco, Sceptile, Haxorus, all threats that can win the game in given situations. Bulky mons in Metagross, Incineroar, Eviolite, Piloswine, Brionne, or Clefairy. Has good pivot in Volturn Port, Defoggers, and Hazard Control. Has Priority Check, Cleric Support Check. The team is pretty solid. The issue it has is a lot of key mons share the same weaknesses, and when it's in a bad position, the team will really pay heavily. So hopefully he makes some trades to fix that up, because I don't see that taking him far in the league. unless, you know, he gets some hacks here and there. But that will be that. For number 13, we have the Brisbane Pyroars and Coach Dylan. I initially had this team a lot higher on the list till I found out that Speed Boost Blaziken was banned. Oof. So I think I had it like, I don't know, 7 or 6, but because of the Blaziken, it's gonna be 13. So the team is good. Good defensive course in Amoonguss, Umbreon, Jellicent, all having access to forms of recovery. Setup or Specs Thunderous Blaziken can get it gets good move pools. A possible max Sandslash to set up Hail. Other mons have some utility like Mime Screen Sweeper, Cleric Togetic, Memento Duggy, Bulky Zuailus, if that's how you pronounce it. I think this team will rely more on stall style, slowly withering down the other teams. Its main issue is the speed tiers. Can also be dealt with using like trapping moves. Once the defensive cores are down, the team is a lot more vulnerable. For number 12, we have the Wholesome Hippos with Coach Anthony. The logo honestly reminded me of the shitposting Sharpedos. I was like, yo Luke, is Polly in this? He said no, so you know, similar tastes I guess. The team is well balanced, has good speed tiers, 3 mons at 100 and up, wall breakers with Garchomp, Clefable, setup Linun, Banded Koppa. That's the first time I've actually seen someone run dual Linun, so you know, that's amazing for me. Hazards, Defoggers, Golbat, a very good Eviolite mon, can be annoying to take down. Boots Fletchinder can get that priority flying to stop sweeps, especially Sash Shell Smashers. The team has access to reliable recovery, Cleric Check, and if anything, they don't really cover each other's weaknesses well, and barely have any pivot. So those are the things to look out for. For number 11, we have the Black Rose Malwales and Coach Josh. This was very close with the Hippo team. Good type variation with the whole team. A lot of mons are viable picks. Access to Intimidate. Setup Suicune is something that can fuck up team building for other players. But with the presence of Grassy Glide in the format, it really is a bad matchup for it. Regieleki, the fastest mon in the format, can even outspeed Scarfers. Can set up screens, do damage as well. Paired with Skarm and Vileplume, it can be tricky to get past this score. Access to hazards and some forms of recovery. Other supporting mons will come depending on what's needed in the matchup. I'm not sure which would be a good Maxmon for this team. Maybe Eleki or Suicune. Maybe G-Max Pikachu for, you know, style points. For number 10, we have the Tangled Up Tangrowths with Coach Ross. Now this team has some power. Zeraora, Urshifu, Gudra, and Corv are all annoying mons to play against, especially since they cover each other's weaknesses well. They have relatively wide move pools and access to pivot. Orbital has webs, can G-Max for reliable thunders from Zera, and has access to the ever-annoying Iron Defense body press combo. The rest have their own niche. Rapidash for Fire Stab and its speed tier. Octillery for Modi, I guess. Porygon, I don't know. Some of these mons, I don't know. Lopunny for support and priority. The team definitely has its flaws. To not having access to rocks really doesn't let it take advantage of its potential to force switches. And most likely expect Nizera, Gudra, Corv, and Urshi to come every game, with Orbital as an honorable mention. So although these mons are really good as a team with, you know, like synergy wise,
they are very predictable, and if you have a decent matchup, you can plan accordingly for them. So that will be my comment there. For number 9, we have the Winter Surfers with Coach Alex. Alex, the homie, his team is really similar to his TP team. For some reason, the dude loves picking mons weak to rocks. The team has very good speed tiers in Torn, Keldeo, Victini, and Miostic. One of the best hyper offense teams we've covered so far. Scarf, Specs, Keldeo, Tornti, Moltres, Victini are all viable. Not to mention Tornti and Victini can be run physical to make the team building more annoying. Prankster Screens always good. Has one of the best NFE mons in Thwacky, like access to Eviolite or Banded Grassy Glides. I think in my opinion, Thwacky is the best NFE mon. Well, maybe except for Porygon 2, but it's definitely up there. The Banded Grassy Glides actually can take out chipped water type mons even if they're maxed. So that's very something to look for. Has access to a lot of defoggers because they have a lot of flying types, and spinners as well. The negatives here is the team is very vulnerable to electric and ice types, not to mention rocks. Although Toge gets lightning rod, the switch is easily predictable, and once Toge goes down, then everything goes down to like a thunderbolt or such. Sharing types also means sharing same coverage moves with only one rocker. That's also something that's concerning. And what is Drizzle supposed to do here? I'm really puzzled by that. I think Alex said that he plans to make a trade for that, so hopefully that happens. For number 8, we have the Munchlax and Coach Davey. This team hits really hard with Lando T, the OG OU mon for all of Gen 7, with defensive cores Bronzong, Tangela, and Araquanid. Zygarde provides a good speed tier with the other mons that lack it, with decent power as well. Kangaskhan can provide whoosh support and some priority. The team has access to Volt Turn Pivot and Hazard and Defog. Also Triage, the best priority in the format, a regen mon in Tangela, and has generally wide typing. The team has a typing issue actually, being notoriously weak to fire, with only Zygarde resisting it, and that's not exactly a bulky boy. Also, most of the attackers are physical, and although it has some special attackers, they don't do enough damage unboosted, and can even fall short after boosts. It doesn't really have reliable recovery outside wish passing Kangaskhan. For number 7, we have Dundee Dittos with Coach Rory. The team can rely on hazards like T-Spikes to stall out mons and take them out once in range. Charizard, one of the best lower tiered max mons, can sweep in a lot of scenarios. Celesteela, always a annoying mon to deal with. Amazing typing, great bulk, and a good move pool. Tyrantrum and Toxtricity has a lot of wall breaking potential, can be choiced or set up. Hitmonchan has amazing coverage and priority. Sandaconda bulky physically that can override weather. Other mons will be situational. A well-balanced team, though it suffers from the same problem my TP team had, in that both Pex and Celesteela are weak to electricity, making the Sanda switch in very predictable. The team also barely has any pivot or reliable recovery. Shinotic can act as a cleric, but it's slow as fuck and vulnerable to taunt, if not getting KO'd by a poison move like, poison jab. Despite the flaws, it does really well in what it's good at. For number 6, we have the Horizontal Valley and Coach Ricardo. The team looks good at first glance. You have the Fire Dragon Steel core with Grass, Water, Fire as well. One of the best steel types in the format in Registeel. Like seriously, they gave this mon body press with iron defense. So you can imagine that can just OHKO, even resisted mons can't take too much of those. Decent speed tiers, prankster mons always good to have. Has some pivot, the team is relatively slow. Decent wall breakers. Its best mons are physical, or not physical, special attackers rather. While it does have some physical power, it's not great, as well as the mons are really slow. Has some access to hazards and defog. The core itself is really good, but can be vulnerable. It can have a hard time breaking walls, so that is something to notice. Now, we go to the top 5 teams. The difference are very small going further, because some of the places can be even interchanged. Like, I wouldn't be upset if someone thought that, some of the places here would be different, because it is really gonna be close and can be subject to preference and whatnot. So for number 5, we have the West Arcanines, Coach Grant. This team is probably the most variety in its typing, with a massive 14 type coverage. It's one of the few teams that have a lot of mons that can be offensive and defensive, or mixed, like between physical and special. Has access to rocks, T-spikes, and defog. Has some pivot, some recovery, and support mons. The team's advantage is due to its wide typing and all mons being viable. It won't have a lot of bad matchups. The negatives about the team is, despite having good mons, it doesn't really have amazing mons that can just win. It doesn't have like premier walls, so it will always take good chunks of damage. The key mons are also vulnerable to hazards. Speed tier is just decent. Will be interesting to see the diversity of this team against its competition. Alright, so for number 4, we have the Close Combatants with Coach Keith. Being top 4, it's no surprise this is one of the best teams in the league. Great speed tiers, priority users, wide type coverage, bulky mons like Serena, Sylveon, Seismitoad, Eviolite, Metang, and Hatterem. Eviolite Hatterem actually has about the same bulk as Hatterene, so it even gets more because of the EV investment for the Eviolite bonus. Access to rocks, defog, rapid spin, magic bounce, Sylveon as a support cleric, Nihilego and Talonflame as sweepers with either choiced or setup options. Even Seismitoad can run Swift Swim for a sweeper set. The advantage of the team with the wide typing and varied roles, it's unlikely for the team to have bad matchups, as well as the mons can serve different sets that makes team building more complicated for the opponent. If anything, the team is vulnerable to water, with only 2 mons that have resistance or immunity. So I can see a mon like Gyarados having an amazing matchup versus this team. So there's that. Now for number 3, we have the Seals with Coach Julian. This is an amazing team. Good speed tiers, wide variety. Good pivot in Vault Port. Dragonite access to boots and dual wing beat is a huge threat. Porygon Z and Durant are some of the best wall breakers in the format, covering special and physical side respectively. I actually had Durant in a previous league, and once it maxed with like Life Orb, we just take 3 kills, no question. but items are not available for Maxmon in this format. I like how the team has Sandslash and Ivysaur, which can take advantage of Sun and Rain, or not Rain, Sand rather, Sun and Sand, and Marshtop as an Eviolite Mon that can set up rocks. Actually, the Marshtop is basically similar to Swampert at this point because the Eviolite gives it maybe even more bulk than the Swampert. Unfortunately, the difference there would be it doesn't get flip turn, so it's not too overpowered that way. The team is good, however, with only one spinner and Dragonite as the only defogger. It will have slot issues if it wants to sweep. It already has slot issues before because you would normally have, let's say, your DD and then you'll have defog, two coverage moves, and maybe you kind of want to have Roost as well. So it's one of those things that you can't really, it's not going to be reliable if you're going to run like a defogger set. The team is also vulnerable to freeze dry, even though Durant and Sneasel resist it. They don't really have the bulk in the Spidef side to take too much of those. I put this team above the close combatants due to, as much as the combatants have better variety, the seals are just more dominant in what it does. We're getting down to the wire, and for number 2, we got Conk the Builder with Coach Lars. This team is stupidly good with tons of variety. Having Mew, one of the best mons in the format, can make team building a nightmare for anyone. Dragapult, good typing and can be physical or special. Even mixed is pretty viable. Scizor, one of the best priority mons. Nidoqueen, bulky poison, grounded poison type that has access to hazards. Alcremie, a Spidef wall that's hard to break, especially the G-Max version. Great speed tiers with Mew, Dragapult, Taurus, and priority on Scizor. Other mons provide utility like Strength Sap, Sleep Powder Gloom, Defog on Pheasant, Swift Swim Seeking, and the team is very similar to the West Arcanines, but the key mons seem to have a bit more variety in this team. I put this above the Seal cause on paper, its win conditions are easier to execute and it brings a sense of unpredictability more than the other teams on the list. This could easily be number 1, but in my opinion, there is one team that just beats it by a hair. Without any further ado, the number 1 team has to be the Kings of Iron Fists with Coach Dashing Kevs. I don't know, this team just destroys worlds. There's nothing as a safe switch into this. Can break through teams physical and on the special side. Oh my god. Nah, but for real, jokes aside, the number 1 team is the Reela Boomers. Yes, Luke the God himself. Remember how I often say through this list that being good at one thing is better than variety? Well, this is that team. One of the most dominant player-mon relationships in Luke's Reela Boom. It's actually on par with like JP's Coparaja, Alex's Togedemaru, Polly's Comfy, and yours truly, Kevin's Durant. Reela Boom Heatran Core, one of if not the best dual core in the format, with Gyarados as a potential ground or fighting switch-in. 2 Prankster users, access to Willow, Screens, T-Wave Toxic, Weather Control, access to Rocks and the Spinner. Gyarados, one of if not the best Maxmon in the format. Abama Snow and Arctozolt Breakers. Phalanx for fighting coverage. The negatives about the team, it is relatively weak to rocks, no defoggers, no reliable recovery, no cleric. I guess the most recovery the team gets is just from the terrain itself. The team is vulnerable once one of the cores goes down, though despite these, a lot of the mons don't really care about taking hazard chip. and they can hit hard before the chip stacks up. Not to mention the T-Wave hacks is a thing that, can help the speed tier, because the speed tier isn't really something that, it's one of the worst actually. But he does have ways around it with boosting with Dragon Dance or Grassy Glide priority. That's gonna be it. That will be the power ranking for this season. Hope everyone enjoyed and found this educational. If you like the content, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.